Hi, Belle here, Dance Learning the Language of Autism. Welcome to chapter 1 of the food series. I thought it'd be easier to break it down into sections. It's not always easy to do that because I'm finding with autism that one thing links into another and it just flows. So it's like I personally find it sometimes challenging to keep a subject. Sometimes people say to me, can you just keep the subject smaller? And it's like, sometimes these things overlap. So I've made lots of notes around me and I will do my best to present as clearly and as easily as I can. So this first chapter is, I suppose the big question is, why have these problems started? Why does my child not want to eat with us or the same food as us? Or why will my child only eat one thing? Why won't my child stop eating? Why won't my child start eating? Why is this happening? It's a big worry and a big stress for parents and carers when their loved ones, aren't eating properly, especially all the time, but especially if you have a child that is non-verbal and is unable presently to be able to express to you what's going on. So you're having to do all this second guessing all the time, and it can affect their health, and it can affect sleeping patterns, it can affect their moods and their concentration and their whole life. So it's a massive subject. Okay, I just want to say at the beginning that all of the things I talk about, again, have come from our own experiences and from that of autistic people that have been kind enough to share with me their own personal reasons. So it's just a mishmash of all these different reasons and scenarios that I've learned over the last 10, 12 years. Also, this list is not conclusive at all, and there are many hundreds and hundreds of other reasons, I'm sure, as to why each individual autistic person, if food is a challenge to them, their own reasons are their own reasons. So I hope with this video that it will just help those of you that are sort of stuck to kind of broaden your minds and to maybe think if it's not this actual thing, it will help you kind of trail along a possibility of, well, if it's not that, maybe it's that, or maybe it's that. Just opening up your mind to the sensory world and the sensitivity of the mouth, the throat, the gullet, the stomach, and the whole food experience. It's not just an eating experience for many of us, it's an emotional experience, it's a joyful experience, it's a full-on experience of eating. So, okay, possible reasons why your child or caree, that's my word for somebody that you care for who is autistic. Might not be a real word, it's my word. So that's the word I'll be used for if it's not your child and you're a professional person and you are caring for a person who is autistic. To me, they're your caree. Okay, so as we know from babies, when our children are born and they're babies, often, I've heard many, me included, say, my child wasn't autistic until this age. Well, what I've learned and what I believe personally is that your child is born autistic. I don't think it's something that you can catch or get, or it comes along the way. What I think I've learned, because I've worked in childcare, I'm a nursery nurse, and I've worked with many babies in child development, is that, when we're babies, just by the act of being a baby, and we sit and we look around and we're like, ooh, and we move our hands, and we are still very much in our own very small limited world of stuff, and we're not always processing everything that's going on around us. It's a slow process. So often when babies are very small and they may drink milk fine, or they will eat basic foods, when we first start feeding a baby, often it's very, we're advised to give them very bland food like baby rice and mashed potato and kind of very low tasting foods, So to me, often as they grow and then we start bombarding them, it's like boom, like, oh, try this apple, try this raspberry, try this Brussels sprout, try this piece of meat. Like, many children can cope with that, many of us can cope with that, but someone that's incredibly sensitive may all of a sudden, to us, the outsider, the parent, carer, look like, oh my God, these problems have only just started. I think it's just because we're bombarding them with so much different flavours and tastes, and their awareness is becoming more as they're growing. That's just my take on it. I'm not saying it's scientifically proven, I'm just saying that that is my take on it. Just something for you to think about. So the mouth is a very sensitive area. You know, we know that because we've got, you know, all of us like and dislike different tastes and flavours, and some of us might eat, you know, a plum, and one of or two of us will go, that's lovely, and someone else will go, oh God, that's so bitter, I can't stand it. So we're all, you know, we all process food in a very, very, very different way. Autistic people are no different at all. It's just that sensitivities can be like off the scale, in a way that probably, if you're not autistic, you may never fully understand that. So, you know, food, you know, can be such a pleasure, but it also can be a real stress and a real traumatic experience for autistic people and people with sensory challenges, you know. So it's also to be mindful of that yes, we want them to eat. Yes, food is important. We need to eat to live and to survive. So because of that, use that as a positive. Is my advice. Is like, it's so easy to panic and try and ram food in their faces and get really stressed and angry, and all that is going to do is just create a bigger gap between you and your child and getting them to eat. Easier said than done, I know. Trust me, with my child, food has been a massive, massive challenge, which is why I feel I can talk about it in such... So things that I've learned as to the various different reasons as to why food problems, challenges are around. Number one, the location of where you choose to eat. For some people who are autistic and very, very sensitive, if they are in a very noisy environment or there's lots of people moving around, it may be quiet, but there's just lots of physical movement that can just create, you know, a sensation of nausea, uncertainty. It's just too much. Sometimes people need a quiet space in which to eat. Sometimes they need a place where they don't do anything else. So if it's somewhere like, say, at school, in a classroom, and some classrooms, you know, they have their food in the classroom. The food comes from the kitchen to the classroom. I've heard some autistic people say, including my son, that I can't eat in a place where I, you know, play on my iPad, or we make, you know, inflate balloons, or I do my writing or my drawing. It just doesn't feel right. So often a separate space set up specifically to eat could be a reason. Might not be, but it is it could be a reason. Sometimes it's because if they've eaten a certain food in a certain place for the first time, and if they're very routine based, it may be that they will only eat or can only cope with eating that food in that place, or in that chair, or with that cup, or with that plate, or with that music playing. It's like a really intricate detective work, and that's another reason. Sometimes with different foods, different brands, it might be same food. You know, we all know supermarkets change brands, they change packaging, they change, sometimes they even change the ingredients a little bit. To us, if you are not autistic and it's, you know, you taste it, you think, oh, it tastes just the same. You know, like I've said before, there's always a reason why your child will stop eating, or won't eat, or can't eat, or finds it difficult to eat. There's always a reason. We just have to take our time to try and figure out what that reason is. You know, it could even be the fact that they just have had enough of that food. I mean, my son went through stages of eating just bananas, and he'd eat 5 or 6 bananas in one sitting. Then he went on to raspberries, and he would only they'd eat like pallets of raspberries, like, you know, a whole pallet of raspberries. And I'd think, oh my God, this is when he was really, really young, like 1 and 2 years old. Then he went on to pepperami, and he would only eat small pepperamis, and he'd eat like 6 at a time. And you think, oh, that's salt and all that rubbish he's eating. Yogurts, one after the other, one after the other. I'm just trying to remember the things that he eat, all of which he doesn't eat any of these now, by the way. He's 14, he will not eat any of that. So that could be another thing. They just want to eat the same food over and over and over and over and over again. It could be that, like I said in my introduction, if you saw that video, my introduction video, is that they are, there's a physical reason. It could be that they have sore teeth. It could be that they're teething. It could be that, right up until the age of 8, 9, 10, that, their teeth are still coming through. It could be that their mouth is sore, their throat is sore, they've got a tummy upset, they feel sick, they have a headache, they're just not hungry. They may just not be feeling hungry at that time. We're all different. Some people that are autistic also don't know how being hungry feels. For some reason, there's like a cut-off where they can't process the feeling of hunger. So if they can't tell what that feeling is, and that it's because they're hungry, and they're not going to ask to eat. You might see it come out in their behaviour. They might, they may even pass out. They may feel faint. They might start getting really like we all get when we're hungry. You may not be able to sleep. They might be lethargic. Look out for the other reasons, and it may be if they only want to eat once a day, that might be all they need. But if they're not thriving, and if they're not being able to concentrate, or they're crabby and stressed more than usual, then that might be because they're hungry. So they may need a prompt to eat. Same with drinking. Some children, just like my son, he can drink, but he likes me. He'll wait and he'll go, oh, and he wants me to say, can you have some water? And then, do you want to have some more water? He just needs that prompt, and then he'll drink. So it's just being mindful of that too. Some people have said to me that it's actually linked to toileting as to why they find eating a bit of a stress. It's not the eating itself that's stressful for them, it's going to the toilet. Go figure. So some people have genuinely said, I really, really don't like the feeling of going for a poo. It's just such a weird, intense feeling for me, and I know, and I've learned that when I eat food, eventually it's going to come out of my body, and that's just weird for me. And there's a whole another load of reasons as to why that is a strange sensation for people who are autistic, and if that is the reason why. So that is a genuine reason. Another reason is that it's been said to me is, I'm just too busy to eat. I'm too tired to eat. I feel full all the time, or bloated, or I'm not hungry. I just haven't got time to eat. And so you're just going to have to bear that in mind, and maybe just get me to eat little and often, or just really small amounts. If it is because they don't like to feel full, then it is about breaking that down and finding ways in which they eat, but they never feel completely full, so that it's comfortable for them. Another reason might be that they only want to eat like certain shaped foods. Some people only eat round food. Some people can only eat triangular food or square food. Sometimes it's colour. Sometimes they can only eat, yellow food or beige food. Sinewy, how do you say that word? Sinuesia. Is that how you say it? Comes into play there, which is a whole nother subject, which I will be talking about in other chapters. For example, so I'm just trying to remember an example with my son. Another reason why he found eating difficult was if I was eating with him, not when he was a baby, but as he started to grow, he would just gag. Just watching me eat and put things in my mouth, he couldn't bear it, fingers in his ears, and it would really stress him out. So he would eat if he could be left alone, and as long as I wasn't eating or his dad wasn't eating with him. which, you know, is a natural thing to want to do with your family. You all want to eat together, but when he was really young, couldn't cope with that at all. He can eat with me around now. Just another reminder that this is a process, and what is happening with your child at this time may not always be the case. Could be too much on a plate. It may need that they need certain things with them when they eat. They may need that favourite toy. They may need their iPad. They may need a blanket. They may need to be in that certain location. They may need to stand up when they eat. They may need to sit down when they eat. They may need to move around when they eat. They may need to stim while they're eating. They may need to stim. And my son stims a lot when he eats, and I totally get why. I mean, I know that when I eat sometimes, and I'm like, and we express ourselves with the things that we're eating. You know, really tune into your own sensory stuff as well, because, you know, you'll be surprised. You know, we all kind of like do these things. You know, they may not want to use cutlery. It could be something as simple as asking them to use a fork or a knife or a spoon is the one thing that is stopping them from eating that food. And if that is the case, don't worry about it. Get rid of the cutlery. It might be if they can cope with eating with cutlery, it might be that they just don't like that it's metal. It might be that they don't like the wood. You know, they might not like the material of the cutlery that they're using, or the colour, or something. You know, it could be that. Intricate details, I've learned, are very, very important. You've got to break down, you know, these sensory experiences really minutely and pick it to pieces and find what it could be for your child. There's so much to follow on this subject. So there's going to be, in chapter 2, I am going to be talking about solutions to all the reasons that I've listed in this chapter. So do not worry, I will be giving you some solutions and some ideas as to everything that I've discussed in this video. And please remember that it is a process, and please try not to panic. I know it's easier said than done. I've had many a night of sleepless nights worrying about my son's health and well-being, but I will just add this in now as, you know, as a positive. He does eat a lot more food now, a lot of healthy food too. So, which is something, you know, a year and a half ago I never thought he was going to do. So it can happen. Please hang on in there and subscribe to my video, share, discuss. You know, let's like everyone share what's going on with their child, their carey. And stay tuned for chapter